30 years. That is how long I have been putting together BePuzzled murder mystery puzzles. I know that because I found this one in the closet. It is dated 1994, and I bought this new when I was a teenager. I love these things. You read a mystery, you put together the puzzle, you solve it. The puzzle looks like nothing like what's on the box. And just to give you kind of like a look of what they used to look like 30 years ago, I mean, they had these fun pictures on the box. You open up the cover, there's the characters shown, and it's got a little description of each of them, a little description of the storyline, and it still comes with its own little booklet inside that you read. It has a whole little story. They were so much fun. So I'm kind of excited to see how they have changed over the years, because I haven't played one of these in several years. And this is the Orient Express. Now, unlike the one from 30 years ago, with all this fun atmosphere built in, I have no idea what this one is going to be like. I mean, it doesn't have a cover that opens up. It doesn't tell you anything about the story on the box. All I know is that it's somehow related to the Orient Express, which we all know and love. Murder on the Orient Express, of course, with Agatha Christie, was one of my favorite books growing up. Obviously, it's a quintessential murder mystery. But let's go ahead and open up this box and see what's inside. And maybe we'll get a better clue as to what it is about. Kind of curious. I mean, the puzzle, again, could be anything. This is a 1,000-piece puzzle. It could be like a floor plan of the train. It could be a picture, a scene from the train. It could be anything. All right, so we do have a little story booklet. And it is small print. It seems a little less high quality than the old ones. I'll tell you that. Looks like we have 8 pages of story and then a couple of pages of solution, but we'll do a little bit of a synopsis hopefully as well. Just looking through, I do see the word Poirot, so I don't know if this is actually based on the Agatha Christie novel. I mean, it says it's a story by Bruce Whitehall, so who knows. But we do have a 1,000-piece puzzle here in the bag. That's all we've got to go on. Let's get started. At 30 minutes in, we still have a number of pieces left to sort. And now that the scene is starting to take shape, I thought I would recap the story for you. We are introduced to the world-famous detective Hercule Poirot, who is heading out on vacation via the Orient Express to Istanbul. The train conductor leads him to his cabin, number 31. Next aboard the train is Ivan, aka Hugo Ivanovic. He's a Croatian living in Yugoslavia in cabin number 36. Then Emily van de Graaf, a tall, elegant blonde woman we can deduce is in cabin number 32. Next we have Sergei Mikhailov, who is unhappy he's forced to change cabins at the last minute to a shared sleeper car, number 33, which happens to connect to cabin 34. His cabin mate is an improbable Count Dracula, who's also unhappy about having to share number 33. Walter Rankin is a brash American who takes his place in number 37, and he's followed by Gustave Dubois in the connecting cabin number 34, which again connects to 33. As the Orient Express gets on its way, one last passenger boards, Marie-Lautrec, in number 35. Poirot observes and meets a Miss Marple exiting cabin 37, but she claims she only wanted to see what a sleeper car cabin looked like as she's actually in the seating car. During the ride, the Count offered to switch cabins with Poirot, but he was refused. A few days pass on the train until Poirot is awakened one morning by the conductor to learn Mr. Dubois in cabin 34 has been murdered. Poirot examines the body to find it face down on the floor in pressed pants. He's shirtless, but wearing socks. The shoes have been tossed about. There's no sign of struggle, but it seems a heavy, sharp object was used to strike the victim's head. His open suitcase reveals a depression where something once was. There's also a book on the table. Poirot asks everybody to join him in the dining car, including Miss Marple. They try to deduce when the victim was last seen. Hercule Poirot saw him at the station in Budapest. The station happened to have been built by the same company as the Eiffel Tower. Miss Marple saw the victim 3 hours later. We learn the book in the victim's cabin was titled Travels Through the Kingdom of Yugoslavia and belonged to Ivan Ivanovic. Mr. Dubois borrowed it from him in the dining car. The victim was an executive director of Aesir Public, a private steel firm with ties to steel and automobile manufacturing. Thus, several motives are revealed. Mr. Rankin lost his business as a direct result of Aesir Public, but he claims he didn't know who the victim was. Aesir was also about to buy the company that Mr. Ivanovic worked for, and many people would be laid off if that deal went through. Madame Lautrec is revealed to be a can-can dancer heading to Istanbul on vacation. She claims she's an artiste. No real motive, though, is revealed. Dracula reveals he's a descendant of Vlad. By wanting to change rooms with Poirot, it didn't seem that he was concerned about being in the room that connected to the victims. That connecting door was not locked. The train pulls into Belgrade station and the body is removed, and more motives are revealed. Emily Van de Graaff reveals she's staying at the Para Palace Hotel in Istanbul. She's single and laments she didn't meet Mr. Du Bois before he became a cadaver. Mr. Mikhailov also works in the automotive industry, and he too might have been out of work if Aesir Public bought out their company, but he claims he never even saw a photo of the victim. As an avalanche inevitably traps the train, Hercule Poirot thinks he has solved the case. He says to them, "Particular crimes are committed by particular types of people. There are no intentional murderers in this group that I can tell. Which would make the killing an encounter that went wrong. And there is definitely something missing from Mr. Du Bois' room. I think something was taken, but nothing was stolen." So we've assembled the puzzle. This is the scene that led Hercule Poirot to solve the mystery, so there must be some clues in here, red herrings or not, and it is up to us to figure out what those clues are and who done it. First thing I want to do is apologize. I know this is a very reflective puzzle, and it might have been a little hard to see some of those clues as we were going through the story. Hopefully you've got a little bit of a better view of it here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the scene of the crime, which I assume is the scene of the crime. It appears to be a stateroom. And based on the luggage here and the luggage tag, which is attached to the suitcase, we can deduce it is Marie Lautrec's. Now, I don't know the solution to the story. I'm just going through what I am visually seeing right now, and hopefully maybe we can solve the puzzle. One thing to notice, they brought up nationalities a lot in the story. I don't think I mentioned that, but they did. So we know that Marie Lautrec is French. Her name is prefaced with MME, which I believe is Madame in French. And if she is Madame, that means she's not single. We have inside her suitcase a photograph of two people, presumably maybe her husband, not really sure yet. There is, in here as well, a stack of what might be the letters to the victim, Mr. Du Bois. Here we have a ticket that shows a cabin change from 33 to 35. Obviously, it is Marie's. She was originally assigned to 33, which is the connecting cabin to 34, the victim's cabin. So she thus got moved to 35, but I'm beginning to think that maybe she had an affair with the victim in his travels. Before we get into that a little bit more, a couple of things to see. We have a camera. I think she was supposed to be on vacation as well. And then she has this Eiffel Tower figurine and what looks like some sort of fan. I don't know if the fan might be something from her can-can dancing. And I think she's from France. I'm not sure why she would have an Eiffel Tower figurine. So I'm not sure I understand that completely or what those clues are. I'm not sure if the clues on the other side of the puzzle are all that relevant. I mean, we do have a dress, a hat box with a hat in it. I think this is a hat as well. I'm not really sure what this thing is. A pair of dancer slippers maybe. We've got gloves, a purse, some other shoes. I think it just represents part of the cabin. Not really sure that is relevant. We also have a light here. Maybe the light wasn't working, and maybe the victim was killed by accident. I don't know. So I'm not really sure how to piece all the puzzles together. The only one thing that really struck me in reading it as well was there was a brief mention that Emily Vandegraff was also going to the Para Palace Hotel, which is where her luggage is heading as well. Emily Vandegraff made it a point to say she was single as well. Maybe she wasn't. Might come down to these letters again. So these letters to Mr. Du Bois in Paris, which is where Marie was from as well. Obviously, if she was sending him the letters, maybe she went and got the letters back from him. There was the something missing from his suitcase. And I'm suggesting that what was missing were the stack of letters. That for some reason, Miss Lautrec got them from his suitcase, brought them back to her room. I'm guessing that was what was indented in them. I'm guessing that the Eiffel Tower here is the murder weapon, which was not a blunt weapon. He was struck with something on the head that was sharp. Clearly, it's got some sharp edges. That could be what did him in. So I've got the feeling that I'm on the right track. I just can't connect the dots completely, and that's where I think we're just going to read the solution. Unfortunately, we can't read it directly. You have to hold it up in front of a mirror to read the backwards lettering. So I now know who done it, and I'm going to share that with you. So Poirot points out that Miss Marple is too diminutive to have committed the murder. Emily Vandegraff would have preferred to snare the victim rather than snuff him. The Count seemed to have no motive at all, and Rankin's motive seemed too far-fetched and too far to go to have been realistic. Ivanovic and Mikhailov wouldn't have even known if their jobs would have been saved if they had killed the victim, so it would have been pointless. Seemingly, the only one who even knew the victim was going to be on the train, of course, was Marie Lautrec. I think we correctly deduced that she was there to meet him and was quite disappointed when her cabin got switched. He, as a wealthy businessman, arranged this trip to Istanbul for her. This is a trip she could never have afforded as a can-can dancer. Along those lines, he, as an important businessman, had a reputation to maintain, so he had to meet with her in secret for their affairs. But he had decided this was going to be the trip where they broke it off. At least he decided that here on the train. So he had two things to give her. One was a souvenir from Paris. That's the Eiffel Tower statue that did, in fact, end up being the murder weapon. And his stack of love letters that she had written to him because he couldn't bear to get rid of those. That was what was the indention in his suitcase. But poor Marie Lautrec, enraged by him trying to end their affair, used the souvenir he had given her to bash him upside the head, killing him. It was a moment of passion. She did not intend to kill him. So as the story comes to a close, once the snow cleared, they made it to the next station, and Hercule Poirot escorted her off with the police, and the train continued on to Istanbul. And that is the puzzle, the Orient Express. Now, if you're interested in this, I went on Amazon to look for it. This puzzle is actually a couple of years old. I got it for Christmas a couple of years ago, and it has since changed names. It is now called Death on the Istanbul Express, and I have to wonder if that is because maybe they got in a little bit of trouble using the Orient Express and Hercule Poirot. So I don't know. The story might have changed a little bit if that was in fact the case. I don't know. But looking at the images for Death on the Istanbul Express, it is clearly the same puzzle. But anyway, I had a fun time putting it together. It went by pretty quick. It was an easy puzzle to put together. I didn't have a whole lot of difficulty. There wasn't a whole lot of trial and error pieces that I hated. And of course, I absolutely love good mystery. I wish I could have solved it. I think we were pretty close. Got a couple of red herrings there, I think. Especially the whole Madame thing I thought was going on. And I was wrong about Emily Vandegraff, I guess. But that's what happens in mysteries. You gotta pay attention to the clues. Don't fall for those red herrings. Maybe we'll have better luck with the next one. Hopefully there will be a next one coming up. If you're interested in seeing that, make sure you stay tuned. Before we go, I did want to say a special thank you to the patrons who help support the channel. If you're interested in joining our Fright Club, be sure to check out a link to my Patreon page in the description below. That's going to do it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care, and happy puzzling.